Good morning or
Alrighty.
afternoon, everybody, depending on where you're at.
Howdy, howdy. Thank you guys for joining today. We'll give it a couple minutes for a few more folks to join the call. Where is everyone calling out of today? Feel free to introduce yourself in the chat if you want. I'm out in Los Angeles. Jack's holding it down in Wisconsin.
Perfect. Give it about another minute and then we can get started here. And just at a high level for everybody as people start trickling. We're going to go over obviously tips and tricks, how Juno works with ProConnect and everything else there. If you do have any support related questions, the best way to get a quick answer there is just by emailing support@juno.tax, or in the Juno app, you can use the little Juno icon in the bottom right. We'll see if we can answer some of these questions. And I know that some folks have some questions there as they're running this, but the focus today is going to be mostly on how Juno works with ProConnect and the nitty-gritty there. And we'll just try to keep the focus on there as we go.
And just to introduce myself, I'm Rebecca Lamis. I am one of our team's accountants and I run our QA department. So I'm essentially responsible for the team that actually ensures that every aspect of our product is tax logic correct. And then Jack, of course, is one of our co-founders and the head of AI, who I'm sure a lot of you have seen on our various demo days and calls. Alrighty, so we'll go ahead and jump right into it. We definitely have quite a bit to cover. So the way we'll be running this meeting today is I'll essentially spend the first 5-10 minutes just giving you kind of a high level overview of the process of getting ProConnect set up with Juno and our integrations associated. And then Jack will actually spend about 10 minutes running through an actual demo from start to finish. So a lot of the questions you may have as I quickly run through the high level process will likely be answered during the demos. And of course, I will be active in the chat as well, answering various questions. So feel free to throw anything in the QA channel at any point if you guys are looking for further information. But let's go ahead and jump right in. So, and for those of you that maybe are new to Juno and haven't necessarily done a trial process yet, this might be getting into the weeds of things, but definitely this is kind of a high level for individuals that are looking for more information on the process of getting ProConnect set up. So just starting here, initial setup and connection, pretty straightforward. We have you guys complete a Juno free trial. It allows you to use a lot of the prepare portions of our product. And then you would meet with a customer support team once you want to go fully into Juno with your tax firm. And they would basically get you set up and kind of walk you through the process of actually installing the app in on your desktop and signing in and syncing clients. And because ProConnect is browser based, it is pretty simple process on that side of things. And once you're set up, kind of just talking you through the process of preparing a return, which is relatively similar for every tax software. As you can see, I have some images down on here, and Jack will walk you through the process as well. But essentially, you essentially have the ability to kind of dump in all of the documents associated to a specific client's tax return. And then you will see a field like this that pops up. It takes each of your returns and lets you know the status on whether or not AI has extracted all the data to validate, or it will give you a status that is essentially showing it's in process and it wants you to review it further. And then when you click on a specific document, you can see this here. Basically, every single field with data associated that's extracted is flagged here, and you can go through and change any of that information and just validate that every aspect of the AI is right and what it's receiving. And this is an image of an example of actually kind of dumping all your documents in. This is kind of the first step associated to setting up your client. And then here we have a specific field that essentially shows you the different statuses. So when you are entering within a specific return and a specific document, you can kind of see all the data listed out in this way. And then our AI will flag for you if there's a specific number that maybe we're not quite sure about and we want you to review, or if something is missing and it wants your, specific look at it. And then from an exporting to ProConnect perspective, definitely very easy compared to some of the other softwares, once again, because this is web browser based. And Jack will definitely walk through this process as well, but just a high level for you guys. Once you download the app, so you finish setting up your client's information and reviewing all the data from a preparer side within our website, juno.tax, and then you will go into your app, which is downloaded on your computer. You will see all your clients there that you've prepared. So, for example, this one we have is Daisy Duck. And then you can see here when you click on it, the first thing it's going to ask you is if you want to scan existing forms. So essentially, this is a process where you log into your ProConnect, you select the client that you are planning to export a return or export your documents into the return. And then essentially it looks at the return and confirms what data and what documents have already been imported. So we definitely recommend you do this scan before you export. This is a way to prevent duplicates of forms and preserve like roll forwards and carryovers. And then once you've completed the scan, you're going to get a image that looks like this, which actually indexes every form and lets you know if it already exists. And then it'll tell you which forms you still need to export. And then you just click a button and you export it. And once it's done, it's going to kind of flag for you and let you know that you are ready to go and all your forms have been exported. And we definitely recommend when you do the export process, kind of we say hands off, don't touch anything, let it run through. And then just kind of a high level critical rules, common failures. We only use Chrome. So definitely make sure you're opening your Chrome browsers when using ProConnect. Definitely make sure both your browser and the Juno app are open at the same time. Otherwise, it won't necessarily connect. Once again, we always recommend scanning before you do an export. And hands off, as we like to say, really just like kind of watch the data be exported into your client. And Jack is going to show that process shortly. And then also just make sure you confirm that the correct tax year is selected before you do this. And it's really important that you're not closing your browser mid-scan or mid-export, and you're really allowing the automation to run in full. And then Jack, we're going to let you take it away now with kind of showing an export. Let me stop sharing my screen here.
Yep. All right. So I'm going to go end to end on this and just show exactly what you would normally do. So the first thing we're going to do is in ProConnect here, you can see I've got my return for Daisy Duck. The one piece that you always want to make sure is set up correctly is having the states there. Juno's not going to go in and set the states for you. That's something we would like to do in the future, but we don't currently do. And this is really important for ProConnect, right? Because on some screens, if I go to the W2, for instance, there are box 14 boxes, like the state disability insurance withheld or voluntary plan disability insurance withheld, which is California specific. These do not show up unless your state is set. Additionally, we will actually select the state from the drop downs here next to each item that's relevant, and those drop downs don't show up unless the state is set. So again, just as a general rule of thumb, always make sure that you've got your return set up ready to go. But again, if we look back at this guy here, I don't have any data in any of these W-2s. These are rolled forward from the prior year. And you're going to see I've got a lot of dummy information here, so this is going to be a fun one to kind of go after. And then the last thing I generally recommend is basically make sure you're not actually in the return. So ProConnect will usually put a little bit of a note if multiple people are working on that return at the same time. We don't have this issue with other tax softwares because they'll actually lock up the return. You can't edit it if someone else is editing it. ProConnect doesn't have that feature. So if our bot is entering a bunch of data and someone else in your team is also entering some data, that can actually like overlap and overwrite things. So just make sure that, hey, if you're entering this, make sure you're not in the return, make sure nobody else is in the return, and ProConnect will tell you by giving you a little pop-up there. But I'm exiting the return now, and then I'm going to choose my client, Daisy Duck here. I have already uploaded the documents for Daisy Duck, and I'm going to go ahead and hit the scan existing forms because I want to make sure that my data goes into the correct form from Proforma. So it's going to show you, hey, how to scan. It's going to open the browser so you log in, and then you're going to select the view return once you get to this screen. So I'm going to go ahead and hit start scan here. So you're going to see it's going to pull up the browser automatically. So I'm going to do my first step here, which is to log in. And
And
once I'm
just a
logged
flag
in,
here.
oh, go
I
ahead.
was just going to say, you do have to relog in for both scanning and then also when you do the export. So always be looking for that pop out. It's just a way, it's something that ProConnect requires us to do for connecting Juno.
Yep. So then once I'm logged in, all I do is grab my client here. And again, the second step, the last step you have to do is click view return. After clicking view return, I'm going to go kind of hands off, and it's going to go ahead and through the scan here. The nice thing with ProConnect is you actually can do other work on your computer. So if I were to like move my browser and click over here, obviously I wouldn't recommend doing work on the same return as I just said. But if you were to go and review another return, you can actually come back here and this will run in the browser in the background. Just ensure that you're not disrupting the browser itself, the Chrome browser. So you don't want to click the X, you don't want to click around here, but you actually can do other work. This will scan and run in the background. And again, once the scan is complete, it'll let you know that. And then we'll go over here and we can see all the documents that I have. And I'm going to go ahead and refresh these guys. So if I look at my W-2 here, I've got my W-2 on the second row, and if I click the options, you're going to actually see it can map to a whole bunch of the pre-existing W-2s here. Now, I don't believe, oh, gathering time. Yep, so here we go. I got gathering time LLC, and I see gathering time LLC right here. So I'm going to grab that guy to map them over. Let's say I'm not ready to import this K1. I'm just going to go ahead and skip this for right now. And I can do the same thing on the Schedule C. So I'm going to map this one into the first one. And actually, I'm going to create a new Schedule C for the second one here. And again, this is where you would go through, and this is something that Juno can't automate. We don't have the context of what these things apply to. You can also do this for 1099s as well. So the 1099 NEC, right now, this is going to other income, and you can see the two existing files that were there. However, if I hit Schedule C, I can actually map this to the Schedule C instead. But just for the sake of the demo, I'm going to keep these into other income for right now. And the 1099 SSA, I'm going to leave as add new form right now as well. So once I've got my mapping set here, all I have to do is hit enter data. And what's cool is you're going to see like on the side here, now I'm using this on Mac, but obviously this works on Windows too. I don't have to actually have the browser directly open, but if I do click it, you'll see it kind of enter everything in the background as we go here. But just again, for the sake of this, I'm going to go ahead and let it run and just let it run in the background. We'll kind of wait till this finishes up here. But like I said, the neat thing here is you get to choose, you're in the driver's seat of where these pieces of information goes. So long as we've ran the scan and you can see how quick that is, it's just going to blast through the existing return. It's going to link out all the pairs names and the general like metadata information that it sees on the returns, and it's going to give you that here as far as a drop down goes to select and enter that into a pre-existing form here. And we can see here it looks like the browser is just getting close to finishing up here and it's going to go through its cleanup process here quick. One other thing to note is just because of the way ProConnect works, we've had problems in the past if you enter like 25 forms at once or more. So what will happen is what you just kind of saw, where it will actually like close the browser, it'll reopen it back to that same spot if it was to add new forms. And it will actually continue adding forms that way. So that way you can add up to 200 forms if you wanted to at once. It just might need to close and refresh its session a couple of times. But there's nothing you need to do. It's just you'll notice if it does close and reopen, that's what's happening. It's all part of the process here. Um, but now that my data's gone in there, I can go ahead back to ProConnect. I can go to Daisy Duck, view return, and go to my W-2. And I believe it was gathering time. This was the W-2. And you can see here, I've got all the information input here. And of course, I've been using Daisy Duck as a test from 2024 to 2025. So we can see neatly that everything does line up here. Obviously, this might not always happen. But you can see everything is now filled out. So the process is quite seamless. And we have two Schedule Cs here. Again, my Schedule C that I entered didn't have a business name on it. But of course, if I added that, it would have it. One thing to note on the schedules is if you open this up, you're going to see the total is being entered in the amount here. However, if I go to the Schedule C here, this is the Juno document review screen. So after the documents have been uploaded, you can review the data that Juno has seen on this. If I go to my Schedule C, you'll notice that gross receipts or sales actually has three items, and it has totaled up the 29,876 or 867, and entered that into here as the total. Now, if I wanted to, I can actually turn off this total for the gross receipts or sales, and I'm going to do the same thing for the other one as well. It looks like that one's already, this is a different schedule actually. So I'm going to turn, if I turn that off and I were to re-enter it, what you would actually see happen is in this pop-up here, it would enter the description for each line item, and then it would enter the amount for that amount, and we would see three line items here. This is just down to personal preference of some firms, and then also just depending on the data that they're looking at. If you have, more than 10 line items, oftentimes people want this to export as a total. So that's what our default is. But if you'd prefer to actually see each of the line items, you'll be able to turn those off for specific categories. And we're building in a little toggle at the top here that can turn them off for all the categories. So I'll pause there. Rebecca, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
Don't think so at the moment. We did have one question associated to taxpayer versus spouse, and I just wanted to flag that in the preparer setup, which was at the very beginning, when you're uploading your source documents and validating them individually, you do have the ability, and we do actually require it to select taxpayer versus spouse, so it does export properly from an indexing perspective.
Yep, exactly. And we can see here, if I open up the W-2, I could select spouse, and that's going to select the spouse from the toggles here. If I go up to my W-2, we should see that for the gathering time. This should be yep, this is a taxpayer W-2. So, but if it was a spouse, this would be checked. Perfect. Well, the beautiful thing about ProConnect here is this runs much faster than the other tax softwares do. So we've saved ourselves quite a substantial amount of time here. I'll go ahead and just take a look. Are there any other questions that we can answer in the meantime here, Rebecca?
No, that was it so far. Definitely feel free to add any questions to the chat if anyone has anything else they'd like to see or for us to demo live during these last 10 minutes.
And while you guys ask your questions too, I'll go ahead and show you just for folks that are maybe brand new and wondering, how do I get my clients into Juno? The last session we had a lot of questions about this, especially from TaxDome users. If you are a TaxDome user, you don't have to do any client sync. But if you are not a TaxDome user, we're going to be able to load all of your clients into Juno by just using the sync clients button here. And it's going to be an identical process where you go ahead and log in. And once we log in, it's just going to grab the list of clients from ProConnect and pull those right into Juno here. It's super easy. All you do is you drop right into the screen here, and you'll see it happen. 1, 2, 3. But yeah, that's about it. If there's any other questions that folks have, especially after the call or during or whatever, feel free to reach out to us. Support@juno.tax is a great way to get back. We also have some great knowledge base articles and everything else as we go here. So happy to kind of go through anything in particular. Let's see.
And one other thing here with Jason, to your point, so we do have the ability to actually change the names of the forms, and I believe the indexing as well associated in Preparer. So if you did have the same name for TP and SP, you could go in manually and kind of adjust what the form is being indexed as from a naming perspective. In addition to that, though, I do hear what you're saying, and that is definitely something we can add into a product feature request list on just kind of identifying TP versus SP on the indexing component of things.
Yeah, no,
And
that's a
then,
great point.
mhm,
We can add that piece of information in there. That's actually a fantastic call out.
yeah. Yeah, thank you, Jason. Definitely appreciate that. And then maybe one other thing, Jack, as well, that you could chat through is just the process for individuals on Taxdome and what they need to do to move their clients over compared to traditional clients.
Yep. So the process that I just showed for doing the client sync, that's what you would normally do if you're not a TaxDome user. If you are a TaxDome user, it's way easier than that. You don't even have to do that. In TaxDome, there's going to be a button that says send to Juno. So once your two accounts are linked and you've set up with Juno, you're going to be able to hit send to Juno, select the documents you want to send over, and it will automatically build that client based on the client profile you have in TaxDome and send the documents over there. The documents will begin processing. And so usually by the time you jump right into Juno, the documents are there awaiting your review. We actually had a Taxdome user, and I'm not even kidding. We have a leaderboard internally now. Someone finished a full return from sending the documents out to exporting to tax software in less than 2 minutes. It was a Lacert user, so I don't think it would have been possible on ProConnect, given it usually takes a few minutes for the data to get entered into ProConnect. But with TaxDome, point being is it's very, very easy. You just hit a button and everything gets shot over, and there's no client sync you have to do, no manual work or anything there. Perfect. Well, unless there's anything else, Rebecca, I think we can probably close this up early. And thank you guys again for joining. Appreciate it. And like I said, if you have any questions, go ahead and reach out to support. I'm right behind that team there, so you'll probably end up getting out to me anyways in that case. So.
And definitely for kind of everything we shared today, there's quite a few support articles and demo videos as well that live within those articles at support.juno.tech. So we definitely encourage everyone to review those before the beginning of their tax season and sharing that with everyone within their tax firm because it does walk through this entire process and any of the nitty gritty specifics associated to ProConnect individually. But yeah, thank you guys again for joining us and feel free to reach out. Oh, one last question. Can you provide a simple list of steps from Hugo? So I'm assuming that's just referring to the steps towards getting set up within Juno. We will definitely be sending out an email with all of this demo video and the slides associated. But Hugo, let me go ahead and pull up this support page for you so you can go ahead and see. Um, so I would recommend, let me share my screen real quick.
And I just sent the
Yep.
website in there too, Hugo. If you go there, this is going to be the same website that you're seeing here from Rebecca.
Yep. And so this really is easy, walks you through it, and kind of all the steps associated to getting set up. I would recommend starting with how to connect ProConnect to Juno. And it really does have very simple, kind of the step-by-step process of getting this set up. And we also obviously have a great customer support team who can help walk you through this as well if you need further information. Great. Any other questions from anybody? Are there any Juno workflow examples? Yes.
Yep, within the support articles, it'll go through exactly what we just showed today, as far as how to upload documents, how to review them, and it
Mhm.
gives you examples of each of those steps. And then within your Juno app, there's a trial that's always available at the very top, a little example preparation. So you can always click that and go through the click-through walkthrough, which does walk through every single step within our product.
Yeah, and we also have demos associated. And even like here, you can see on the support page, right? We have essentially every product that we feature within Juno, and it definitely has articles with workflow examples under each kind of product. So you can kind of dive into any aspect of Juno that you want to learn more about.
Yep. And Ivan, that's actually a great question. So the question is trying to figure out if it makes sense for our front desk to be part of the workflow or if it should only be the tax preparers. So this is something we talked about in depth on the last week boot camps, but I'm happy to touch on it here too. What we actually recommend and we find is that having your admins run the part of the process where all of the documents are uploaded to Juno and then the export into ProConnect initially. The admins tend to do that work really well. They're usually a lot more inexpensive. They're usually easier people to hire, right, for your firm. And then your preparer can actually go in there and take any of the more outlier documents. Maybe it's like a receipt or an EV credit from a, EV receipt that your client might have purchased or whatnot. They can go in there and finish out the preparation at that point. So I'll give you an example is Dave Hayes, who is our founder. He's owned a tax firm for about 10 years. He's been using this product for 2 years now. And what he did is actually have all of his admin staff do everything that you just saw in this demo today, because really preparer doesn't need to do that, right? The preparer's time is much more valuable, and then even more so the reviewer. So he has his admin staff upload the documents and then hit the export button into ProConnect. It zips through, enters all the data like you just saw. And then, like I said, the preparer would come in after that, finish out the preparation because, between 70 and 80% of it is done at that point. And then obviously hand off to the reviewer as normal at that point.
And a good call out here as well is, once you subscribe to Juno, you are not paying per individual user. So as many team members from your tax firm as you like are more than welcome to kind of join Juno, and you can invite them. And we have various like organization settings as well that you can change based off of how you want various team members to use the product. Awesome. Any other questions? Feel free to throw them in the chat now. Otherwise, I think we will. Oh, I see. We just also had one more question. Will Juno work with a Starlink internet connection? I would
Yep.
imagine so. Yeah.
Shouldn't have any issues. Yeah. So Starlink's just a different type of internet. So if you're traveling somewhere remote, as long as the internet is good, Juno will work well as well. The only actual consideration is just ensuring that the computer this is running on is not, something very old, something that has a hard time running on its own. This is an automation, so like any other tax software automation that we run, where we take over your computer and click and enter data, you'll want to make sure the computer is able to handle that. But normally, what we see is, hey, if you're able to work with the tax software in the first place, you won't have a problem with our app. We actually haven't had more than one or two customers in our whole history that has not been able to run the ProConnect automation.
Awesome. Well, I think that wraps us up. Doesn't seem to be any other questions. But yeah, thank you everyone for joining today. We also recently launched a community called Modern Tax Pros. So I'm sure you guys have gotten emails on that. We definitely recommend joining. We're doing all of kind of like our product updates to the community in there. There's a space where you can even like post product feature requests. So we can kind of add that in on potential things we can push out, as well as just a space for the community to ask questions. So definitely recommend joining that if you haven't already. Tanishka just added that link within the webinar chat. And then, of course, with any and all questions that you guys have, feel free to email support@juno.tax. They have a very quick turnaround time and would be happy to help you guys further. But yeah, thank you everyone for joining today. And we really appreciate the time and all the questions.
Great. Thank you guys. Take care.
Have a good day.